Hi there. The purpose of this video is to take a long, cool look at the situation around us and evaluate it rationally so that we can make sure that all our actions are going to be commensurate with the facts of reality rather than any sort of blind hopes or wishful thinking of mass awakenings or anything like that, because we need to be able to act on the facts. We need to be honest with ourselves as we appraise the situation. And here in the UK particularly, on the 9th of January 2021, as I record this, the train of madness almost seems to be unstoppable. I think the one thing we must note is that there is a political agenda that is driving the narrative that we see. Everything that unfolds, the scheduling of government policies, coordinated, well coordinated around the globe, the current UK lockdown, all of this is ultimately following a political agenda, a well coordinated political agenda. We need to appreciate and do a little bit of a history lesson. We need to appreciate that this agenda of control, political control, has been happening for at least a century, if not considerably longer, with central banking. But if you go back and study the birth of the Federal Reserve, the beginning of last century, read Ed Griffin's excellent book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, take note of the rise of the technocracy movement in the 30s, the eugenics movement. Notice that Elon Musk's grandfather was in the technocracy, Bill Gates' grandfather in the eugenics movement, and we really need to use that contextual knowledge to reinforce our conviction that it is a political agenda that's being driven. The idea is more and more top-down control, more government, more state intervention into the lives of ordinary people like you and I, and China is the model. We're going to see more and more restriction of the movement of people. We're going to see more and more restrictions economically. There's going to be a new, instead of the currencies that we have around the world, we're going to see the introduction of cryptocurrencies. Whether it's this year or next, I don't know, but this is commensurate with the Great Reset and the continued controlled demolition of economies around the world. This is all on the agenda, and this is all being driven by this bogus pandemic narrative. And it's all unfolding according to plan. Check out the website and plans of the Rockefeller Foundation, and check out the website of the World Economic Forum, who are thrilled to bits, it would seem, that this coronavirus has given us such a wonderful opportunity for a great reset, as Klaus Schwab would say. So yes, we have this new variant, allegedly new variant of SARS-CoV-2 here in the UK and in South Africa, but we have to remember that the original SARS-CoV-2 was never isolated, purified and identified. They've never actually identified a definitive DNA of that virus. It's just not been done, although the scientific papers try to make it look like it has been done. The great work of Dr. Andrew Kaufman and others has exposed that fraud. So the idea of a new variant is nonsense. This is a lie. You can't have a new variation of something that hasn't yet been identified. Yet this idea of a new variant is being touted as the justification for this current lockdown, another 2.5-month lockdown for us here in the United Kingdom until later in the spring. We're told that the new variant is extra transmissible, so it's very, very, very contagious, so extra restrictions are going to be necessary. More and more lies on top of lies. We're told that the only way to stop spreading it, by Matt Hancock, our health secretary, via the BBC, the propaganda mouthpiece for the UK government. The only way to stop spreading it is to stop meeting people. It's now illegal to sit on a park bench in the UK. We've had people being arrested for hugging, and we've had the police storming into people's houses in Aberdeen when the neighbours have allegedly complained that somebody is having a visitor. We're really seeing the tyrannical state barging the doors down at this stage. The BBC continually tell us that it's our fault, it's people's behaviour's fault, I should say. Those non-compliant people, those people who are not socially distancing, the reckless behaviour over the Christmas period where people were socialising has caused this increase in cases. And it's shocking to see the government effectively blaming people who are non-compliant with this whole crazy lockdown social distancing nonsense, which is not scientifically proven. You must note that. People are blamed. People's behaviour is the problem. We are told that cases are rising faster than ever and that more restrictive measures will be needed. We're told that everyone needs to get vaccinated, and hopefully the vaccination will be made available to everybody. It's really important in this context to do your homework about the test. Yeah, the PCR, the lateral flow assay tests, or whatever they are, antibody tests, they're all not telling you anything useful. They're not diagnosing any disease condition. They can't. Particularly the PCR, a test that amplifies particular little snippets of RNA or DNA according to the set primers. And it's really important to know about this test that if you increase the number of amplification cycles, you can increase them towards a near guaranteed positive result. And if you decrease them, you can wind it down to get negative results. This test is an almost perfect control knob for dialing up or dialing down case numbers. Remember, a case isn't anyone who's ill. A case is somebody who has a positive test. So the state, whatever country you live in, whatever your government, the state has a perfect control knob for dialing up or dialing down the pandemic. And this is really serious that there aren't more people educated into what these tests tell us and the fact that they're scientifically useless. This further lockdown, of course, gives the government excellent opportunity to assert more economic control as part of the overall political agenda. We're seeing subsidies, furlough payments, people being paid to stay at home, basically. We see the government deciding which businesses can remain open and which must close their doors. And we're going to see more stimulus packages in the future. And this is just the Keynesian economists getting a greater hold on the economy, the government assuming more control of the economy, and it's waving goodbye to any semblance of a free market that we may still have or still had prior to COVID. It's also important to know that part of this political agenda is the destruction of the middle class. Those parasites, the ruling class of people who have hijacked governments, know that the state's ability to take control is very much limited by a functioning middle class. If you have a strong middle class with a cushion of wealth, with resources, that's a problem for the state. And what we're seeing with this controlled demolition of the economy, economies being sacrificed to the so-called pandemic, is shocking. It's criminal destruction of livelihoods and lives. It's a crime against humanity, but it's part of their agenda to destroy the middle classes. The agenda is to vaccinate. And we're seeing that more and more with this lockdown here in the UK. It's very, very likely that the lockdown has been introduced to help bump up the uptake of the vaccine. There's been some initial resistance to the vaccine, and the idea of a lockdown, no return to normal, of course, until everyone rolls up their arm. We have horrendous propaganda from Matt Hancock talking about injecting hope into people's arms. Ooh, makes me cringe. But the agenda is to get everybody vaccinated. And we really have to be careful with this vaccine. No liability for the manufacturers, of course. Many reports of nanoparticles in there. It's an mRNA vaccine. Do your homework on this, guys. There's a lot to look into here. But it's very much the case that this vaccine, getting everyone vaccinated, is the agenda, and that must be resisted. Research Bill Gates. James Corbett put together an excellent series of 4 short documentaries on Bill Gates. These must be seen in the light of this push to vaccinate. We can also expect travel restrictions to be increased. Here in the UK, we're already seeing Ryanair saying jab and go. So most major airlines in the world now are united on you need a health passport before you can board an aircraft. So kiss goodbye to any holidays, any international travel or regional travel by airline, unless you're prepared to take the vaccine. We can expect to see even regional travel restricted, I would anticipate. I would even go so far as to predict that things such as internet use of the Amazon services and all sorts of things like this will very likely become contingent on having an up-to-date health passport. This is how serious it is, guys. The vaccine is the agenda. Once again, we have to remember the agenda is political, it's control. Track and trace here in Western countries is just one step on the ladder towards a social credit system. This is the state encroaching on your privacy completely. It's the end of privacy. And we have to remember also that China is the model. China have been praised again and again by political leaders for the way it managed to deal very effectively with this coronavirus due to its harsh controls, its track and trace, its ability to monitor the population so effectively under this communist statist system. But as we appreciate this global agenda, it's important to look at the Trump election steal and the division in America in this light as well, and understand that America is a roadblock to the New World Order. The globalists, those who want global governance, those who want encroaching state powers and a reduction in the freedom of the individual, the collectivists, America is the last, and indeed perhaps was ever the only, full bastion of freedom in the world. And originally, the people of America had a free country. It's the only country in history that's ever been born in freedom, where the government was originally genuinely subservient to the people. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But America still represents a problem. It represents freedom, and its demise, its destruction, would lay the way clear for the global governance and for the state takeover globally. So what we are seeing in America is a sort of a slow motion destruction of the state. It's being divided and conquered. And I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know where this is going, but I wouldn't mind betting that some kind of virtual civil war or martial law might be imposed in 2021. We're going to see far more problems in America. America must be destroyed for the success of the globalists. So that is going to have an impact on the narrative we hear and also what we see unfolding. So ultimately, the future doesn't really look that good if we're honest with ourselves. When I look around myself here in the UK, every time I go to a supermarket, I'm the only person not wearing a mask. From my social interactions with friends and family, still so many people buy into the lies. So many people are convinced that this narrative is real and not bogus. And this is a massive problem. Because we live in a democracy and not any kind of freedom in a republic or anything, the ignorant majority are going to be the downfall, if you like, or they're going to certainly compromise the few people that are thinking and in pursuit of freedom. And this is a very real challenge for all of us that are aware of the agenda that's unfolding. So the signs don't look good. We don't have any resistance here in the UK. I can't speak for other countries, but there's very, very little resistance happening. So we really need to prepare ourselves accordingly. What can we do? Well, we must not comply. We must be the one in the supermarket without a mask on our face, without a face nappy, a muzzle. We must speak out and continue to have rational conversations with people and try and educate people, try and stimulate thought and inquiry. We must gain knowledge and understand what is going on. So having a conversation, refusing vaccination, and spread the dangers of getting vaccinated, and don't comply. Stand up. All of us must stand up and be counted, and effectively try and give permission to those around us who might also then follow suit and perhaps dare to take off their mask. I do recommend establishing some kind of food store for uncertain times ahead. This is not panic buying, it's just sensibly preparing for the future. It's also worth looking into and studying up on the common law, although I think its teeth are limited in the face of tyranny and jackboots and tasers and tear gas with police knocking doors down. It's still essential to be familiar with the common law. Things like conditional acceptances can be used as a line of defence against vaccination, and well-crafted documents placing liability on those administering the vaccine. So I don't mean to bring you all down at the beginning of 2021, but I think it's very important, as I said, to take a cool, rational look around and see what's going on. Most importantly, the message of this video is to remind everybody that it's a political agenda that's unfolding and that's driving the controlled economic demolition, the vaccine, and ultimately the destruction of America. And I hope that this helps you guys understand a little bit more clearly the world around you in these crazy times. I do urge you to visit the website lawfulrebel.com. There's lots of there on how to find truth, how to actually start a process of discerning truth, and also key stuff on there on how to be healthy. So catch you next time.